Good morning, good morning, good morning. I am Tamara Johnson. Shealey, good morning. It is a beautiful, sunny Saturday morning here in the ATL. I just want to say thank you for joining me on this broadcast. I am super excited. If you know me, you know there's certain areas that I am intentional about addressing. That's food, air, water, and land. We have a very special guest this morning. I'm psyched. I'm psyched. I didn't even want to have a conversation with her before now because I wanted to bring it all to you. Let me welcome her to the broadcast. Miss Jillian, good
Morning,
morning.
morning. How are you? Thank you
How
so
are
much for
you?
having
Good
me.
morning.
Morning, morning.
Miss Jillian Hishaw, agriculture attorney,
Yes.
farm advocate. This lady is phenomenal. It's funny how I'm really attached to some really great people who know great people. So she was introduced to me by a mutual friend and said, "You gotta talk to her. She's all about everything you're talking about." So, Jillian, welcome to the broadcast this morning.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much.
Yeah, yeah. I love the rap girl.
Oh, thank you.
Got to keep it cute.
Yes, yes,
E-
ma'am.
Even when we were, back in the day where they made us wrap our hair, girl. We kept it cute, right?
Exactly.
All right, jump in, Jillian. Tell us who you are again. Agricultural attorney, farm advocate.
Yeah.
Who are you, girl? What are you
Yes,
doing?
yes. I am Jillian Hishaw, born and raised in Kansas City, Missouri, and currently live in the Charlotte, North Carolina area. And I'm an ag attorney. I finished up my undergrad in biology at Tuskegee University in
Hey.
Alabama. And I've been practicing in this area after law school for about 15 years, but in completion, a little over 20. And it's in the area of environmental justice and land justice in particularly. So
Mm.
I have worked as an environmental planner for the city of Kansas City. And then I worked for the Department of Conservation for Missouri, developing environmental education programs for inner city Black males in my neighborhood. I've also worked for USDA in the Office of Civil Rights in Washington, D.C. Under the Obama administration. And then I clerked as a law clerk at EPA in DC under the Bush administration, working on lead cases and Teflon case with DuPont. And so culminated all of that experience and started two nonprofits. The first one I started, I left after 2 years, and I started Farms in 2013. And we have three different program areas. One, of course, is our legal services, where my clientele primarily is aging farmers of color, but particularly Black farmers. And so we focus on estate planning, farm succession, elder care, predatory abuse. So we have drafted wills and trust, and we've also have helped with civil rights matters regarding USDA and, of course, predatory lending. And that influenced my first manual. It's more of a manual. Don't bet the farm on Medicaid, because people don't realize that when you qualify for Medicaid and you put your loved one in a long-term care facility, a nursing home, if they owe an outstanding debt to the nursing home, they could put a lien on your house in Atlanta or your land in, LaGrange, Georgia. And so it's very different nuances to that, but they could definitely just take your land or your house. And so I wrote this manual just to educate elders and their families on how to protect their assets before they, sign up for Medicaid.
Yeah. Wow. You
Second,
know what? So you don't even look a day over 30. Like, so
no,
you
I'm
said 20.
44. I'm 44. I just
Oh,
turned
you said 20
44.
years. I'm like, this girl can't be a day over 30.
No, ma'am. Good black
You
don't
look
crack
great.
unless you're smoking it. But
Okay.
yep. But yeah, so that has definitely been a great resource. And then it took me 14 years to finish this book. It's a textbook, and the title is Systematic Land Theft. And it has 12 chapters. Each chapter has a case study and then chapter review questions and a glossary. And then separate, it comes with a curriculum. But it basically documents the history of Black and Indigenous land theft during and after European settlement. And so I definitely do this work for personal reasons. My own family lost our farm, our 40-acre farm in Oklahoma, due to a dishonest lawyer. And my grandfather and my great grandmother were taken advantage of by this lawyer. And they paid the lawyer to pay the property tax on the land. But unfortunately, the lawyer stole the money, and our farm was sold in a tax lien sale without our knowledge or even notice being given. So this work is definitely personal, um, from that standpoint.
Why don't you tell that story, Jillian? Because I think that was going to be my question to you. Where did this come from? Like, how did you become all that you are today, and advocating the way you advocate for farmers and Black farmers, and specifically our issues? Let's go back there, Jillian, if you don't mind. What happened?
Yeah, I mean, it's been decades ago. So, but I just know growing up that my grandfather told me stories about being raised on the farm, but he didn't want to discuss it. He didn't want to discuss how it was lost, and he didn't want to get in the details of it. And as I grew up, grew older, and he passed away, and I grew into my educational career and things of this nature, I found out, the reasons why he didn't want to discuss it. Just like a lot of my farm clients, the reason why they don't want to discuss it, and how their, family farm has been lost, or the process of losing it now. It's very personal. And, people tell me, oh, Jillian, you shouldn't take this work so personal, but it is personal. It is
Mhm.
personal because I, made a promise to not only my grandfather, but my grandmother to do this work. And it is personal. Land ownership is personal. The reasons why, Black folk came to this country were forced labor. It's personal, and it all starts with the land. So how could it not be personal? That's why it's called personal property. And so when I do this work, I take on my cases as if it was my grandfather or if it was my great grandmother, because they didn't have honest legal representation. And, unfortunately, honest legal representation, whether the lawyer is Black and white, are few and far between when it comes to land and mineral rights. And, so that's why it's very important that we protect our land legacy. We lose 30,000 acres in land ownership in the Black community per year. And it's just sad because a lot of Black folk that I talk to, consult with, that are grandchildren or children of these farmers, they don't want to have anything to do with the land. They consider it a tax burden. They consider it, you know, the closest thing next to slavery. Meanwhile, on a daily basis, there's people down at the county tax assessor's office that, make it a daily routine to go and look at the tax rolls to make sure, to see, oh, who's behind on their taxes so that they can, buy it in a tax lien sale. And so these are things that definitely need to be taken into consideration and to be of the utmost importance. I've reached out to, millionaires, whether they're in Atlanta, and the mission of farms, which is my nonprofit, unfortunately does not resonate. And it's so, so, so important that we protect our land assets and our land legacy.
Yeah, I'm sitting here jotting down because I have so many questions. Why do you think that we don't want to go back to the land? I think I'll just tell you. I grew up. I'm a Southern girl. My family has roots in rural Georgia. I grew up in the city of Savannah, but all of my family is in rural Georgia. And when I think back on as a little girl, I remember um, how hard it was, for my people. I remember being on the back of my uncle's pickup truck as a little girl, and I remember looking on one side of the highway where the white people lived and how they had brick homes,
Right.
all this land. And I remember on the side of the highway where we lived, my uncle, we had an outhouse. I used to cry when I was a little girl because I'm like, I don't want to stay because I'm gonna have to use the bathroom. And that outhouse scared the daylights out of me. I remember smelling the hogs. I remember seeing the chicken's neck being wrung. And when I think back on that, I don't know why. And I remember my grandmother always had a farm. I tell the story when I was a little girl. I didn't grow up eating if I got some potato chips and a soda, that was such a treat because my snacks came out of the yard. Whatever was growing outside, go get that. Whatever we ate, we grew. So when I think about today, the young people or people that don't understand this connection that we should have with the land, why do you think this generation and maybe our generation and younger, why do you think there's such a disconnect from the land? Because I'm still very connected to the land.
Well, I think that, when I had my youth program for 4 years prior to the first 4 years out of law school, and young people, they think that, again, they feel like a slave when they're on a farm.
Mm-hmm.
And they would complain to me, oh, we getting black as a Hebrew slave, you got us working like a Hebrew slave, ha ha ha. But the I don't know, the importance of it is lost. We have to move past the history of the initial reasons why we were placed on the land. We
Mm-hmm.
have to,
Yep.
because if we don't, we'll continue to lose wealth, and we're losing it at a rapid rate, you see. And it needs to be immediate, like it's a fire burning, like it's just, I just don't understand. And it's immediate, and it needs to be now. And there's certain people that are in this for the wrong reasons. They say that they are helping and do it, but it's the complete opposite. And so you need to also discern, who you're hitching your wagon to. But at the same time, just be motivated on your own, just to seek out and start owning land. Like, I would give my right arm to own land. I don't at the moment, but I would love to have farmland. And but we, for my family, but we don't. But people that have lost land, like my family, we would give our right arm and leg to have it back. But then I have clients that they just they just don't want it. They'll tell me, I don't care. Let it go to the tax lien sale. My grandfather's dead. We don't want it. We living in Atlanta. We're not going back. Never. And, and so they rally around, quote, urban farming. To me, there's no such terminology as urban farming. You're gardening. You're not farming. Farming is acres, not city lots. I know people, when I say that, they take offense. I really don't care, because it's an oxymoron. You're gardening, because my grandfather, he taught me how to garden. You see, he taught me how to garden in the 80s and the 90s, but he knew the loss. He knew the loss of a farm. And he in the 80s, he made the distinction for me. What is a city garden and what is a farm? And to me, when people say urban farming, to me that's an insult to the Black farmer. And we need to support the traditional rural Black farmer. And that's another problem, is that we're not supporting rural Black communities. And farms is all about supporting rural Black communities. Of
Mm-hmm.
course, we support cities through our food bank program. So we not only have the legal services, but we have the food bank program where I purchase produce from farmers and then it's donated. 90% is donated in rural communities, and then about 10% is donated in urban areas. But we do support that way. But we need to support our rural communities because they're worse off than cities.
Mm-hmm.
Cities have infrastructures. Urban youth have the Boys and Girls Club. They have, all of these different outlets. But rural youth, they don't have hardly any type of amenities.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them either get pregnant, or they, get into different activities that are not positive. And so these are the things also that we need to take into consideration. And the problem here also is that, people will move from their rural community and then that's it. They don't support. And there needs to be support of rural communities and rural youth programs.
And speaking of
Where is
rural,
that
yeah,
in
exactly. And speaking
education?
of rural communities, so on the campaign trail to the United States Senate, I am very intentional about rural Georgia. I am very intentional about rural Georgia. So I travel to these areas, and you're right. I don't see a whole the infrastructure does not exist. No
Yes.
jobs. I just wonder what they do. There was one community that I actually was riding through. Somebody was taking me through part of the community, and we were riding through, and it was probably noon, midday, middle of the week, and rolled down this street in rural Georgia. Well, it's a road in rural
Yes.
Georgia. And it was all these young people just kind of sitting around playing checkers or whatever, sitting under a tree, working on a car. It was just like they were just like hanging. I'm
Yeah.
like, and when I think about rural Georgia, I always think about just these rural areas, the resources that are available to you. You have land.
Yes.
You have land. You have the most valuable resource there is. You have land. And I think, being in this digital age where everybody has a cell phone and everything is electronic, I think they believe that is where this information age is where the wealth is. I think that there is some wealth there, but there's no generational wealth the way
Exactly.
you would have it with having land.
Exactly. Yes, I agree. I agree. And I spent 4 years, creating youth programs and putting them on the farm in Kansas and in Missouri and all of these things. And yes, there's Black farmers in Kansas. um, but I also, even though my main demographic under farms is elder farmers, I still have the youth component, with our intern programs. We've had interns for 8 years, and they're all young people. And we still work with rural youth, throughout all of these years. I just, incorporated. And so all of the basis of my initial I don't know, programs that I created in Kansas City at home 15 years ago, I'm still incorporating in farms because you can't have elders without youth. But my focus is always on rural youth in farms because they need some type of outlet.
Yeah. And I
And
think
we,
I think you're right when you talk about the how, they don't want to, it's hot. It's hot
yeah,
outside.
yes,
I don't want to sweat. I don't want to work
yeah,
this hard.
hmm hmm
All the excuses to why they don't want to farm the land or
yeah. I had one young man. This was like 14 years ago, but the, all of those kids are in their 30s now. It's crazy, but he would carry a can of wall spray on the back of his pockets. when we would be out on the farms, and he would just scream, "Ah!" Like a banshee. And like, man, these city kids, I mean, uh, it's not like, 14 years ago, there wasn't the Asian hornet, unfortunately, that we have, now here, that's a killer. It could kill you literally. But yeah, I mean, they're scared of wasps, they're scared of bees. There was a black snake. Now those black snakes do look spooky. I'm not gonna uh, but I just, you know, I really was, the program was focused on young black males, on purpose,
Yeah.
and just encouraging them to farm. We need more young black male farmers. Not that, women farmers, but we need more young black male farmers. I mean, there is often, the programming is often focused on black women or black young ladies, but I saw a need back in 2006, 2005 to focus programming on young black males, particularly in farming, and that's what I did. And my program structure is continuing to this day, last I checked. And so I'm happy with the fact that even after I left the program, it's still continuing,
Yeah.
and it's
And
focused on the youth.
And it says a lot about strong men, a
Yes,
strong farm hand. You do
yes,
need men on the farm to do some of the
yes,
heavier lifting, right? Some of that work
exactly.
requires some physical strength that women don't necessarily have. Like we can, but it is much easier for a man to do some of this work. And I just believe in farming. Like when I grow up, I do want to be a farmer. I do want my 40 acres, and my mule will be a tractor. So I look
Yes,
forward to being on the land and getting back to the land, and having my hands in it. As I travel this journey now to the United States Senate, I am intentional. I really want to sit on the agriculture committee.
yes.
I expect to sit on the agriculture committee like
We
first.
need you on that committee. We really do, because it's desperate. We need someone like you to sit
Yeah.
on that committee.
Yeah, I look for that. Is like I'm aiming. Like if I'm going to do whatever look, I want to sit on this agriculture
Yes.
committee. I'm very intentional. Georgia's an agriculture state. I
Hmm.
do believe in farming. I want to see more people get back to the land. Georgia has so much bare land that we could do so many. We could feed the world. Like I really see Georgia as a place where we really could feed the world here off of a lot of the farmland that we have. But let's dive into your book, Systematic Land Theft. Let's
Yeah.
dive into it. Like, where did this book come from? Because I actually had an article that I was reading, and it was talking about, and I'm sure you'll touch on this, the millions of acres, or the acres that we had early on, and where we are today. Systematic land theft. I'll let you dive in right there.
Yeah. So I started writing this book back in 2007, as a white paper when I worked for the state. And the first three chapters is focused on conservation. We develop 175 acres an hour in this country, and that's rural acres. And so, again, the importance of protecting rural land and rural communities is important. I remember going to a meeting outside of Atlanta, the 2 hours outside of Atlanta, 6 years ago, and the farmers were concerned about the development, encroaching on the farmland there, which unfortunately it has already happened. And so it focuses on conservation. It focuses on the documentation and the history of Black and Indigenous land loss.
Mhm.
Um, and also, so then it also moves into just focusing on Black farmers and their present day issues, and then resolutions as well. And so, as we all know, we've owned about 16, estimates have upwards of 16 to 20 million acres in the early 1900s. We've lost about 90% of that acreage.
Say that again. Look, I need you to slow down and say
Yes.
just that part again.
Yes, so in the early 1900s, we owned estimates up to 16 to 20 million acres. But unfortunately, we've lost about 90% of that land ownership. And so, according to the 2017 USDA census, we now own 4.5 million acres, but those numbers are skewed if you ask me. They take into account, quote, again, urban farms, and that that should not be taken into account. City lots and city plots of 4x4 gardens do not equate to a farm. But that it's just another typical tactic by USDA to skew the numbers, because the reality is that out of all of the demographics, Black farmers lost the most land between 2012 and 2017. But see, they don't want to admit to that, and so they'll mess around with the numbers, and they'll start giving quote urban farms a farm number to take account into those numbers, but they're two different categories. And so that again goes to the history of USDA, the history of the predatory lending tactics with these loans, and that's how we've lost so much land, is because due to the federal government and their predatory lending practices and blatant discrimination that they've admitted to over and over and over again, in court, out of court.
And what's the resolve to this? Like, we see it, we know it. Like, how do we fight this, Jillian? I don't know. This is why we have to lean on experts like you, because how do we fight this?
Well, I mean, and it's good that you have me on, because senators don't want to listen to me in particularly, but I don't mince words, and I don't have time to be politically correct. The average age of my farmer is 75, 80. And I don't have time to, skirt around the problem. It's obvious. It's obvious. And we have a consent decree with the Pickford v. Glickman, which is nationally known as the Black Farmer suit, that has been in place since 1999, but they have not honored that suit. And so I've worked inside of USDA in DC under Vilsack, and so I know internal and external, what goes on. And it's just the system, even regarding the complaint process, when you file a civil rights complaint, is not objective, and it needs to be fair. And it is not, unfortunately. And, the legislature has tried to amend and help not only Black farmers, but Indigenous and Latinx farmers with the debt relief provision of the American Rescue Plan on March 11, 2021. But purposefully, if you ask me, USDA dragged their feet and didn't implement that debt relief, immediately, allowing for enough time to pass for now. The last I've checked is 12 lawsuits that are pending in 12 different states against, the USDA, filed by white farmers claiming reverse racism. And so, because of that, they've not only gotten a TRO, but they've gotten a PI, preliminary injunction, and it's holding up the debt relief. Not only months, but it could be years. While farmers, in their 80s are waiting on this money, and they're passing away.
Let's go back. Let's go back a step, because I want to make sure people understand the injunction and what this is all about. So the Biden administration had some monies set aside for Black farmers or farmers of color. They didn't specifically say Black. They said farmers of color. But dive into that just a little bit, just to explain for those who may not know what this is all about.
Well, the terminology for, quote, a farmer of color within USDA terminology is socially disadvantaged. And within this particular set of money it was to go to, quote, farmers of color, and that was defined as Black, Indigenous, and Latinx only. And so the money was supposed to be initially given to Black farmers, but then the Latinx and Indigenous population were added. And 5 billion was allocated to the program, 4 billion to debt relief, and then 1 billion for other types of programming. But unfortunately, due to these lawsuits, a temporary restraining order, which the abbreviated is TRO, was put in place by a federal judge in Wisconsin at the end of May, and it halted the distribution of money temporarily. However, the following month, at the end of June, a federal court in Florida issued a permanent or preliminary injunction. And then that also followed suit a week or two later with the federal court in Texas enjoining the program, through a preliminary injunction as well. So, again, I mean, I don't want to get into the legal nuances because we'll be here all day. But as a lawyer, it's just frustrating because you try to do things in court. In the past, they've done things in court by filing suit in 97, settled, a year or two later, 99, with the consent decree that hasn't been honored. And then, you try to do things legislatively. And again, it's it just falls on deaf ears. And President Biden, he can issue an executive order, to resolve this. And so there's other ways to skin this
Stay
cat.
there. Come back. Say that part again. He could do what?
He can issue an executive order to assist the matter. And USDA could resolve this on their own, internally with their own budgets, but they don't.
And this is why I wanted you to say that again, because I want people to understand that, those of us, Black America, I didn't, but Black America delivered, Joe Biden, on a lot of promises,
Yes.
that he would carry us, into this administration, and we wouldn't be left behind. And this is where you hear my frustration, is that we were lied to. We are now at this place where we have this injunction. You have this, this legislation that's just been blocked, and you are in a position, President Joe Biden, to make an executive decision, and you haven't done it.
Well, and also the DOJ last week missed the deadline to fight the injunction.
Missed the deadline.
Yes.
How could they tell it? How could they miss a deadline?
Well, they just didn't, file, they didn't file the proper documents to object to the injunction.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know, maybe they have a different legal strategy. I don't know. I'm not there, but I just wish, or hope rather, that there's more, activity to enforce the debt relief.
So, Jillian, I'm gonna go back to the question I asked you earlier about, how do we the solutions? How do we fix it? So this is why I am such a fight to the dead end about reparations. Like it's in my heart and it's in my spirit, because I'm tired of us begging. I'm tired of us being, treated like this. I'm over it. I don't want to. I want this reparations. I want these monies, because I want us, those of us who are descendants of chattel slavery in this country, who have a legacy, in the land. Like you just said, legacy in the land. Let's give us the monies that we need. We know how to. I do believe if we could control, we got control of the land. We got control of our food. We could create our own damn economy. We could have our own economy.
So that's the thing, we need to stop depending on, on other people.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to start respecting ourselves, and we need to stop not supporting ourselves. I
Mm-hmm.
get more flack, more non-support from Black folk. I mean, it's just overwhelming. And I really just don't understand it. Even with my book right now, it's priced at 75, $85, and people will balk at the price. They'll complain about the price, but they'll buy a new purse and new shoes, way more than the cost of my book. And the book sales help with programming. Nope. I mean, there's hardly any funders that are going to give me money to sue USDA. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And I've been self-funding a lot of my work for decades now.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in this, since 1999, when I started working in Charleston in South Carolina. And so I've been in this for quite some time, and it all starts in-house, and there needs to be more support. And I've been recognized by people that are well known and people that are unknown. And I need support. I mean, you see what I'm saying? And
Mm-hmm.
people are like, "Oh, Jillian, you're too aggressive," "Oh, you're the quote angry Black woman." But no,
You got reason to be.
it's just
Hell,
I
we got
just
reason to
feel
be mad.
well, I just don't think that people understand the level of need, and the immediacy and the urgency of this problem. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I try to explain it, but it's like, oh, I'm, yes, I am Chicken Little, the sky is falling. Like, I just feel like the problem is so immediate, and we're seeing it. I mean, we're literally seeing it.
Look,
And
you got California right here chiming in. They got you. Look, they're coming for you. So there's a commission out in there's a bill AB 3121 that is establishing a commission to address reparations in California. So stay tuned, Jillian.
good, thank you.
Stay tuned.
Yeah,
We got the right ears and eyes on us right now.
yeah. I mean, Chapter 12 is filled with resolutions as far as banking and you know, um, owning land, individual. You can own land as a 501(c)(3) and then as a 501(c)(2), and protected. You can put a conservation easement on the land and get tax credits, for up to 15 years, and that'll cover your labor. I mean, and the IRS will match that. But there's so many different ways here, but the the main place starts within. It starts with supporting each other
Mhm.
and support as community. To me, until we get our own house in order, we're not going to get anything. I mean, that's just, I'm just saying, we're not going to get anything. You can do the legislation, you can do, all of these rules and regulations and all of this. But until we support each other, there's always going to be this problem. There's always going to be multiple problems. And
Mhm.
what I'm saying is that we need our own land. And what I'm saying is also from a climate change standpoint, and that's what I'm saying when we're seeing it right now.
Mhm.
We're seeing it right now because we don't own any land. 98% of US farmland are owned by whites in this country.
Say that again.
98% of US farmland are owned by whites in this country. The remaining 2% are owned by the collective BIPOC, you know, populations. I mean, and so who's controlling everything? Who's controlling the money? Who's controlling the banks? Who's controlling the land? Who's controlling the land practices for the majority of the people?
Mhm.
Landowners. And the landowners, are white Americans. But if we control more land and more resources, and we do it organically in a sustainable way, using indigenous practices, then we can have better root systems that'll suck up that water. I mean, there's so many different things, but we're kind of at the point where it's too late because, I've been trying to look at the hole in the ceiling since 1984 when I learned about climate change. And so, and, even as a child, in the 80s and the early 90s, I knew about climate change. I knew, the quote, crazy environmentalists were saying, we have to stop, these coal and, all of this is non-renewable resources, non-renewable, not renewable. But still, everywhere we're seeing what? Trees being uprooted in the city and paved over with concrete. What do you think that's going to do? What do you think that that's contributing to? Flooding. It's impervious pavement. When you uproot those trees, when you pave it over with concrete, the water is not being infiltrated in the soil.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is another form of, planning and city. And that's what I would learn so many things when I was working as an environmental planner for the city of Kansas City. And we need to preserve green space in these cities. And so from that standpoint, of course, I do support, urban gardening, urban gardening. Let's use that
Not
terminology.
farming, urban
Yes,
gardening.
urban
Use it.
gardening. Because that promotes green space, it promotes, food access and all those things which are needed. But the terminology is also important because when you say farming, that insults Black farmers. And Black farmers are, just mentioning urban farming and they'll start using, what I call, profane analysis. And so and for good reason. And so it's so important, that we support each other, we know our history. When you buy this book, it's a 6x9. Yeah, it's not all that thick, but it's going to get thicker with the second edition that's coming out next year. But when you buy this book, you're supporting Black farmers. Just last week, I saved a Black farm from foreclosure, and I'm working on saving another one, this weekend when I get off this call and into next week. But there, it's like finding funders to fund this type of work is like a needle in a haystack. And, a lot of people know about what I'm doing, but, I just need them to support. I can't continue to do this without any money. And even if you can afford money, you can buy a book. And even if you can't afford the book, you can buy a t-shirt. And even if you can't buy the t-shirt, you can tweet, hey, look at what this nonprofit is doing on social media. I mean, so there's so many different things that we can all do to support. And you have to be leery about who you're supporting, because not everybody that say that they're for the youth or for, this cause, are really, for the cause. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and you know what? I hear your heart. I hear your heart, and everybody that's watching hears the heaviness and the burden that you are carrying this, because you're the intellect behind it all. Like it is your education, it is your life experience. It is
Yes.
everything that you have given this to do this work that requires support. And I get it. As a candidate to the United States Senate, I know how hard it is to raise money. It is a tremendous undertaking. And honestly, if I could do this for free, I would do it for free. And honestly, if you could do it for free, you would do it for free, but you can't. You need
Well, yeah,
support.
I
You
have
need
been.
support.
Well, I have been doing it for free. I've been waiting tables doing this work. And I mean, and I could have gotten a corporate law job and been rich by now. But I do this for, again, it's personal to me. It's personal. And I don't care what people say. And so so many different entities and people have taken my programming structures and ideas as if it were their own. And now I call them out on it because I'm tired. I've been doing this over 20 years, since the 90s. And so that's invested,
Mm-hmm. So
invested
here's so
student.
here's what I want to do for you today. I want you to really, and in this moment, I want you to realize that you have now tapped into people who love you, people who will support you, people who are just as passionate about our people. Like you have now tapped into a network, and they hear you. I'm telling you, we got some serious eyes that are and ears that are watching you, watching this broadcast today. It may not be a lot of them, but the right ones, I promise you, are here. So I always like to talk about solutions. I love, you and I are young enough. I'm 49. I'm right behind, look, a little bit older than you, baby. So we're right here together. So, I've been doing this work for a long time, like you have, but nowhere near. You've put 20 years into what you've done. I've run for office 5 times consecutively, 2014,
Really?
16,
That's
18,
amazing.
20 and 22 coming up. 5 times. This is my
Wow.
fifth run for
Wow.
office. So I know what it means to be dedicated. I know what it means to be determined. And I know the love that we carry for our people. And not that you dismiss anybody else, but you understand the urgency, like you just
Yes.
said, the urgency of
Yes.
of now, of right here, right now, and what is happening to us. Yes, the sky is falling, and I'm chicken little with you. I'm your
Right.
sister. The sky is falling, and
Yes.
Black people have to wake up. And there's a lot of us who are wide awake, baby. So you're not alone in this fight. So take some of this and just, I want you to breathe and release and know that you are amongst people who hear you, and we're going to support you in this process. And I'm going to stay connected with you because I believe that I know I don't know enough, and I do hear you, and I will take your voice with me to Washington. So just, I'm
Good.
definitely going to stay close to you. I don't want, going back to, like I say, with reparations, I want to see us not be so dependent, like you say, on others. I want to
Right.
see us create our own ecosystem, our own, from the farm to the table. Like I want to see
Right.
that thing happen for us, because I know it can. We can
Right.
feed our community, and we can feed other communities as well. I want to see more Black people specifically get back into farming, get back into the land. And I think that is going to be our solution. And that's why my fight is about reparations. So hell, if we had the money to do what we needed to do, maybe we could get a lot of this done in the immediate and now. So we're traveling in the same vein. We're going down the same road. And I just want to say it has been such an honor to have you on the broadcast today.
Well, thank you so much for hosting me and having me. Thank you for your platform and just, doing the work. I mean, that's amazing, your diligence. 5 times. Most
Yeah.
people would have given up
Five
after the
times,
first
honey. This
time.
is my, yeah. So you feel, you and I have that same kind of don't quit
Yes,
spirit. Like I'm not gonna quit. I do.
exactly.
It is personal for me because I see it. I know it. I can't turn a blind eye to what I see and what I know. And the
Hmm.
same thing with you. Your grandfather put something in your spirit that you could
Right.
never shake. You will never
Exactly.
be able to shake what he put in your spirit and what you know about what happened to your family. You will die trying. Even if,
Exactly.
prayerfully, this will be some victories, great victories along the way, but damn it, you will die trying because it's in
Yes.
you, and that is the root of who you are. And I feel it.
Thank you so much. And I feel you too. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, yes, yes. We got a few more minutes. We got about a little about 10 more minutes in
Okay.
the broadcast. So I just want to, if anybody has any questions for Jillian, please put it in the chat. Let's, I'm excited that, I believe that we can do this. And like going back to this article I was going to share, it was sent to me this morning about the farmers needing loans to expand, to buy seed, and to bridge the time between harvests. How do they not get into a place where that is like they need a loan? Like, how do they not? I don't know, Jillian. You'll have to
Well,
explain it.
so that leads to the third program that Farms has is our Farmers Fund.
Mhm.
And this is a dual purpose. The first 5 years was dedicated to a book scholarship, giving a book scholarship to a child or a grandchild of a Black farmer majoring in ag science at Tuskegee University.
Mhm.
But since we've added a component, basically the Farmers Fund, and so since January of 2019, we've been providing basically financial emergency relief to farmers. And some of that money has been, quote, bridge money but it isn't a loan, it's a grant.
Mhm.
And the reason why they farmers, again, true farmers, the term farmer is important. Farmers need operating loans or money at least twice a year because that's planting season. And so
Mhm.
you have to have money in the spring, you have to have money in the fall to buy the seed and to buy the fertilizer. Even if you're an organic farmer, you need organic fertilizer, or you need to pay for labor. And so that's just, an annual expense. That's an
Mhm.
annual expense. But the problem here is that, climate change. And since 2015 and 16, I've just been seeing an uptick of my farmers losing crops. They lose them multiple times a year. On average, I'm seeing, 7 or 8, well, 5 to 7 times a year. And they have to plant later and later in the year. Usually when you're a farmer and you're planting fall crops, you usually plant in August or early around this time of year.
Mhm.
But now they have to plant later, later in the month or early October, because just look at what happened in Louisiana and in Mobile, Alabama. All of my farmers in that area, they lost all of their crops. And
Mhm.
so the money that they planted last month is washed away, it's gone.
Mhm.
And so they're needing more money to plant more times out of the year now. Um,
So
so
going back to like you and tell me, because I just remember this there being this little almanac with farmers, and they
the
would be able to
farmers,
look at they would be able to look at this almanac and kind of tell like when was planting, or there was something about this guy. I just kind of remember it from.
no, you have it right. It's called the Farmer's Almanac, and it
Mhm.
comes out annually. But
Mhm.
you can throw that out the window. I mean, and that's what I tell the farmers. I'm like, you can use that as a limited resource guide at this point, but that's out the window. You can't go by no Farmer's Almanac no more, because the climate is warm and it's changing. And so it's completely different. You have to plant food completely different now because of the, erratic weather. And so that is also something to take into consideration, that you can't refer to the resources of the past anymore when it comes to food production, because those resources and that information, a lot of that is essentially, you know, I mean, it's just, I'll say non-existent, but it's futile. We're in a different climate now. And so we have to plant differently. And eventually, we'll possibly have to be planting our food, all covered indoors.
That's where I was going. That was where I was
So,
leading. Like, would it now turn into? I'm sorry about. Would it now turn into like more of an indoor kind of? What do you call that when they're planning inside? What that there's a.
yeah, there is a term. I can't think of it at the moment, but basically it's in production, warehouse, food production. And even with that, there's more problems. That's a whole nother, that's a whole nother problem.
Yeah.
And it's in some aspects it's more pricier. It's more, because you have to build the warehouse, and
Mhm.
that requires concrete, that requires utilities. And again, that's contributing to the use of non-renewable resources, that's contributing to climate change. And so if we had really focused on climate change legislation and we didn't leave the Paris Agreement, even 4 years ago, we would have been in a better position than we are right now. And so the need for legislation, not only, of course, in the United States, but also worldwide, internationally, is immediate. It's immediate. And, just look at in the spring of last year when nobody was on the road, and you saw that global
Mm-hmm.
view of the world.
Mm-hmm.
The wildlife were free. They were coming out because they no longer have a habitat.
Mm-hmm.
As we do the urban sprawl and we pave over more acres, that's that species habitat. And so
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have more interaction with pythons and bears and moose. I just saw a video of somebody, a moose was in their pool. I mean, you're going to have more of those interactions with wildlife because we are paving over their habitat. And so it's not just about civil rights for the Black farmer, but it's cohesive, it's holistic approach. It's you can't have one without the other.
Yeah. Well, Jillian, I just want to thank you again. I think that you are a phenomenal,
Thank
phenomenal
you.
person. I think
Thank
that you
you.
are doing such great work, and I definitely want to stay close because I know that I have a lot to learn. I think you'll help prepare me for this
Yes.
journey that'll be ahead of us. So yeah, I do want to be a part of the agriculture committee, and I do want to have a voice in that space. So I thank you for joining us on the broadcast today. Again, you can find Miss Jillian Hishaw at jillianhishaw.com. Her book is Systematic Land Theft. And the other one, say the name of the other book.
Oh, the other book is Don't Bet the Farm on Medicaid.
Yeah. How Medicaid Leans. What's the subtitle? How
How
Medicaid Leans.
Yes, how Medicaid liens impacts the small farmer, but I'm going to change that subtitle because the local nursing home can also put a lien on your house in the city. So it's
Mm,
not just you know land, but it's also city property as well.
yeah. Yeah, we have so much great work to do, and I'm just glad to be amongst those of us in this season that's doing this great work. So, Jillian,
Same
thank you
here.
for joining me on the
Thank you so
broadcast
much.
family. I thank you guys for joining me. I come to you every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every Saturday. This was a great broadcast. Make sure you guys check out Jillian's website, buy a book, support her. Do you have a way to just make a donation on your site?
If they go to farms, it's 30,000acres.org. And so again, we lose 30,000 acres in the Black community per year.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the web address of my nonprofit. And my nonprofit is abbreviated FARMS, but it's Family Agriculture Resource Management Services.
Yes. Yes. Miss Jillian, y'all. You can find me right here giving voice to issues, activists, and activism. You can support this broadcast, please, at tamarashealey.com. I work alongside churches to fight for reparations. You can support us at reparationssunday.com. And if you are a descendant of chattel slavery here in Georgia, please go to the website www.hb541.net, where we are intentional about those who are descendants of chattel slavery and finding some solutions here in Georgia. And I am a candidate for the United States Senate. I am running for office for the 5th time. This is going to be our victory, y'all. This is going to be our victory. Please go to the website. Please go to the website and take a look at where I stand on the issues, donate, volunteer, be a part of all that we are doing to win this race to the United States Senate. This is it. This is it. I feel very excited about this run. So yes, thank you for joining me. Miss Jillian was a phenomenal guest. Again, Systematic Land Theft, Jillian Hishaw.com. Be sure to check her out, y'all. So I will see you back here. on Monday. I'm coming back Monday. I know it's Labor Day, but we got work to do. We still have work to do. So you'll see me back on Monday for Keeping Up with Congress if you are following me right here on YouTube. So I will see you on Monday. Thank you for tuning in to Tamara for Georgia, where we give voice to issues, activists, and activism. I am Tamara Johnson Shealey, your candidate for the United States Senate. I'm a progressive Democrat that believes that reparations will make America great. It is time that we bridge the divide in this country. Please go to my website. That's www.tamaraforgeorgia.com. Please join me every Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here for Tamara for Georgia.